All right, class, welcome back. Today we will cover section 3.8, parallel and perpendicular lines. This is the last section for this chapter, so after this we will start preparing for our unit test. All right, so if I think about parallel and perpendicular lines, explain why they have the same slope. Parallel lines will have the same slope because if I have 2 points, so I have my white point and I have my green point, and let's just say my slope is 1/2. So I go up 1 over 2, and I go up 1 and I go over 2, and I draw that line. If I do the exact same thing down here, my green dot, go up 1 and over 2 and up 1 and over 2, if we think about this, if we continue this pattern of up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, is there any way that these lines will actually cross? And the answer is no. So if we have a line with slope of 4/13, what would be the slope of a line perpendicular to this? Well, we learned about opposite reciprocals, but if you think about it, the slope of the perpendicular line would have to have the opposite sign, because if one of your lines has a positive slope, in order to be perpendicular, another line would have to have a negative slope. And then we'll take the reciprocal of this number. So it would be -13/4. Now, if we have these two slopes and we multiply them together, so we take 4/13 times -13/4, the 4 is reduced to 1, the 13 is reduced to 1, so in the end, I'm going to get -1. Do you think that this is always true? So you could take 3 or 4 different problems and you could do the same thing, and in the end, yes, this is always going to be true. All right, so let's look at some problems. So example 1 says, state the slope of the line passing through the 2 points -3 and 9 and 2, 6. Find the slope parallel to this line and the slope of the line perpendicular. So hit pause and find the slope of the line. All right, welcome back. We have learned that the slope is the change in the y over the change in the x. So we're going to take my y minus my y over my x value minus my x value. 9 minus a -6 is 15. -3 minus 2 is -5. So the slope of this line is going to be -3, or some of you may tend to think of this as -3/1. So use good symbols. Make sure you put that little parallel down as a subscript. If I want the slope of a line parallel to this, we have learned that parallel lines have the same slope. So that slope would be -3. And then if I want the slope of the perpendicular, I will take the opposite reciprocal. So the opposite of negative is positive, and the reciprocal of 3/1 is 1/3. And again, if you take -3/1 times +1/3, this is going to multiply to give you a product of -1. Make sure when you write these that you use this good mathematical notation so that when I am grading your quizzes, tests, and homework, I know what you are doing and I can follow your work. All right, example 2. Find the slope of a line parallel to 4x minus 7y equals 19. So we have 4x minus 7y equals 19. So when I look at this, it says find the slope of a line parallel. So in order to find the slope of a line parallel, I have to think about what I need. So I really need the slope of this line, and probably the best way to do that is to solve this equation for y. So I'm going to move my 4x to the other side. And then I still contend that you make less mathematical mistakes if you divide every single term by the number. So divide everything by -7. And I get y equals 4/7 x minus 19/7. So the slope of a line parallel to this is going to have a slope of 4/7. Now I'm going to go to the next part of the problem. It says make a new equation that would be parallel to the given equation. So I've left this very open-ended, which makes you guys really, really nervous. So I need a new equation, linear equation that's parallel. So I have to think about what I know about parallel lines. They have the same slope. So as long as my equation has 4/7 x, you could put plus, minus, and you could pick any number you want to. So just for fun, I'm going to pick 27/13. There's infinite number of answers. This number can be different from everyone. You could have written point slope. You could have written HK. It doesn't really matter. The only thing that is super important about this problem is that this slope right here is 4/7. All right, so now we're going to look at example 3. Find the slope of a line perpendicular to 2x plus 3y equals 7, and make a new equation in HK format that would be perpendicular to the equation. So I have the equation 2x plus 3y equals 7. So I'm going to find the slope. So again, I'm going to go ahead and solve for y because I think that will be the easiest thing to do. So you end up with 3y equals negative 2x plus 7. I need to get that y by itself. So now when I look at this, the slope of this line is going to be negative 2/3. If I come back to my question and look at what they want the slope of a line perpendicular to this. So I'm going to take the opposite, and then I'm going to take the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 2/3 is going to be 3/2. Part 2 says, write a new equation in HK format that would be perpendicular to the given equation. So if I think about HK format, A is the same as slope. It represents a vertical stretch, and it's x minus h plus k. So here's the thing about it. I didn't give you an h and a k, so you can pick any numbers in the entire universe that you want to plug in. The only thing that I'm going to look for when I grade this problem is that right here, you have a slope of 3/2. You can plug in whatever number you want here, and you can plug in whatever number you want here. So that part of the question is open-ended, so make sure you plug in a number. I'll plug in my lucky number 11 and my other lucky number 9. All right, moving on to example 4. Determine if the lines are parallel, if they are perpendicular, if they are neither. So I need you to hit pause, take both of these equations, and solve them for y. All right, welcome back. If you solve this equation for y, you have negative 6y equals negative 4x plus 18. Divide everything by a negative 6. So you have y equals 2/3 x minus 3. Coming over here and doing the same thing, if I solve for y, I get negative 3y equals negative 2x plus 9. Divide everything in here by negative 3, and y equals 2/3 x minus 3. So actually, when I look at these equations, not only do they have the same slope, because the y-intercept is the same, they're actually the same exact line. So in essence, they're not technically parallel because they're the same line. They have the same slope. Had these y-intercepts been different, they would have been parallel. So these are the same line, and we're just going to leave it at that and go from there. Okay, example number 5. If you look at everything we've been doing, we have been taking things that we already know how to do and applying them in different ways to problems. And we're going to do the same thing here. Are the lines containing the following points parallel, perpendicular, or neither? So if I look at what I have going on here, I have two sets of points. Set 1 and set 2. So I want you to hit pause, and I want you to find the slope of both sets of points. All right, welcome back. So we know that slope is change in y over change in x. So I end up with negative 4 over negative 11, which really becomes 4/11. Over here, my slope is 12 minus 1, which is 9, and negative 3 minus, negative 12 minus 1, which is 11. Sorry about that. And negative 3 minus 1, which is negative 4. So if I take my two slopes and multiply them together, the product is negative 1, which means they're perpendicular. And you can also look and tell that these slopes are opposite reciprocals. Therefore, these lines are going to be perpendicular to each other. Okay, moving on to example 6. Find the unknown coordinate so that the line through the points has a slope of 2/3. I will be honest, this is the most missed question on the unit test. So pay attention and make note. All right, so we know that if we calculate slope, we're going to take y minus y, so 9 minus y over x minus x, 6 minus 13. So I know that my slope is going to be 9 minus y all over 6 minus 13, which actually is a -7. This problem tells me that I have a slope of 2/3. So I'm going to substitute in a 2/3. And now this is no longer a slope problem. This is a proportion problem. So we are going to cross multiply and solve for y. So when I cross multiply, I'm going to multiply these two terms, 2 times -7, which is -14. And then I'm going to multiply these two terms. And I would be cautious. I would just go ahead and write that the long way here so you don't forget to distribute. All right, so now we are simply solving a linear equation for y. So bring down my -14, 27 minus 3y when you distribute. I need to move my 27 to the other side. So when I do some quick addition, I get -41 equals -3y. And when I divide each side by -3, I get y equals 41 over 3. I know that's not the most beautiful looking answer, but it is a number, and it is the number that we need to solve this problem. All right, so don't be afraid when you get fraction answers. It happens. It happens more than you're going to want it to happen. All right, and last but not least, a graphing problem. It says, let's graph the line y equals 2x minus 3, and then graph the line through the point to -2, 1, which is perpendicular to this line. So if I think about perpendicular, first of all, the slope of my original equation is 2/5. So I need to think about what the slope of that perpendicular line is going to be. And I am so smart, and we have studied this like crazy. It's the opposite reciprocal. So if I graph my original line, I have a y-intercept of -3, and I'm going to go up 2, and I am going to go over 5. And there's my original line. In this problem, they gave me the point -2, 1. So I'm going to come over to my graph, and I'm going to graph the point -2, 1. And then I'm going to count this slope right here because I'm going to graph a line perpendicular to the original. So I'm going to count down 5, and I'm going to count over 2. It's actually my y-intercept, which is not always the case, but in this particular problem, that is where we're headed. So now when I take these two problems and I graph them, those two lines are perpendicular, and the product of their slopes is -1. This is enough information that you can do homework 3-7, which is what we are going to work on when you guys come to class tomorrow. Have a great evening, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.